vote, as we said, something back.
Well, we gotta get started because we're behind a little bit. I think everybody has met Mark Andrews previously, and we've got Mr. Wessel.
This is Julianne. Julianne West.
I have not met you.
She was the star of yesterday's presentation, and so I'll be sitting down and she'll be giving the rest of the presentation.
So I was given some instruction by one of my colleagues here to do this right. Let's all vote for Mark.
I am here despite Mr. Qualley's best efforts. But all kidding aside, everybody knows Mr. Wessel is the Executive Vice President and the head of all of Trust. I'm Mark Andrews. I'm a trust officer with the bank and have been here 10 years. And Julianne Lusk is handing out the materials. She's the head of our trust marketing department. And it's a department of how many, Julianne?
Steve, how many? Oh, yeah, our department of one.
But you all know her from the presentation yesterday, and her knowing exactly about how to do the sales. So I handed out a card to all of you, and there was a specific purpose for that. Because as we heard yesterday, I want you to write down 2 or 3 things. How many times did we hear that yesterday? How many times? I'm going to ask you to do it one more time. On the back of my card, we're going to, how do you want to be remembered? Some of you may think of that in terms of retirement. Some of you may think of that in terms of passing on. But I'd like you to write down no more than 3, but 1 or 2, or perhaps 3 things of how you personally would like to be remembered. If you do that right now, I'll continue talking while you do that. And Al, I'd like you to think about that too. 3 things you want to be remembered by. Mr. Wessel, you're off the hook because I report to you.
All right, good.
But I know that you've already done this exercise. Because some of you may have recognized Allie Power. She's the new head of the trust department. She was seated next to me at the seminar. She had us do this recently. And the 3 that I came up with, I was thinking in terms of retirement, not in terms of passing on. Maybe that has something to do with not wanting to think that far down the road. But in terms of retirement in my professional life, I thought, does anybody want to share with, I thought trustworthy. I want to be remembered as trustworthy. I wanted to be thought of as caring. And the 3rd was capable. Does anybody wish to share what they wrote down? And whether it was in terms of professionalism or in terms of dying? Larry?
Mine's more personal. Mine's more family love.
Family love?
Yeah.
Mr. Dack?
I've got family and others, which is, feeling distinguished when you do
Well, this is one of the things, we call it legacy, but to really boil it down, to get to that advisor level that they were talking about yesterday, these are the kinds of things that when we work with our clients, we like to talk to them about, because we can't put together a roadmap for them to get them where they need to be unless we know where they want to go. You guys do the liability management, right? We do the asset management and the legacy planning. And the idea is we help folks construct. We got some construction equipment folks in here, right? Is this a good house? A lot of these that are up here right now, these are the vendor type of things. But when we're doing these things at the very best, we try to elevate ourselves to the advisor status, particularly on the advice. Now this is one that I really like because how many times do we get involved in an estate plan even after the fact? Sometimes you have to do some post-mortem planning, and there are some things you can do post-mortem planning. Like anything else, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and if we're being brought in this late. Now, there are two things where we help folks with, so that you may have. One of them is the liquidation event. Many of you are aware of clients that you've worked with for 10, 20 years. And Art, I think you might have had one that we talked to that, where they do the big liquidation event. And so we bring in the investment experts, and the best way, what I was told at Trust Sales School was, it's better to be first than it is to be the greatest investment person on earth. So when they have the liquidation event, is it public? Does everybody know? Are they having folks come from all over the place to try to talk to them about how wonderful they are at investments? Whereas if we've been working with them for 5, 10 years prior to that, we're the advisor and we're in a better position. These are some of the fun things we do. Simplicity, peace of mind. Is anybody against that? But this is the slide that I think Mr. Wessel and the rest of the team are most proud of, particularly the top one there. That more than 95% say they would recommend us. It's not that they would continue to do business, that's even higher, but the fact that they're willing to put their reputations on the line to their family and friends and say, look, if you need wealth management, these are the folks for you. And then obviously we're competitive. We're amongst the top 50 banks in terms of trust revenue, which most folks aren't aware of. And we have over 100. If you open up the booklets that are annual reports, not the last page, but the second to last page, and you open it up, you'll see the team. And what does that picture say to you? What it says to me is there are a lot of folks in that department, and it's a very deep department with a lot of experienced professionals. That's what it says to me. Now, why would you guys be interested in partnering with the personal asset management, bringing in trust and helping you? Well, we help you protect and retain your client base, because you're listening to them, you're helping them solve some issues that they may have. There are 13 wealth management issues that everyone faces, and the top one is investments, but there are all kinds of other issues, one of which is of course debt, that you guys help them on the business side. But then on the personal side, the private banking side, we can help that as well. And then obviously, the rest speak for themselves. As far as the compensation, my boss, Allie, we were talking about it, and I was like, well, these guys in SFG, they make a lot of money. They make a lot more than for trust officers, right, Mr. Qualley?
No comment.
No. But we do have a nice track award, and if, like, for instance, if there's $1 million, if you bring in $1 million of wealth management, you get a $1,000 approximately track award, which is nice. It's not going to change your lifestyle, but as my boss pointed out, she says, it's kind of cool when you get paid for doing the right thing for your client. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to remember that and share that with everyone tomorrow.
You know, Mark, let me just add one thing. It's not only you doing the right thing for the client, but you're making it much less likely you'll lose that client.
You're protecting and retaining.
Yeah, it's a very defensive move as well. So it's a win-win.
Now, Al, I'm glad you spoke up, because there's something that you were involved in putting together that I wanted to share with the group. You had in the aircraft division, you had the deal you put together with Steve, and where there was collateral that was going overseas to a tough-to-go-get locality. And so what we put together was we put together a deal where we put a significant CD with Amy in cash management, and we put together a significant investment account with us that was then collateralized and made part as secondary and tertiary collateral for the loan. And the client was able to borrow more than he would have been able to otherwise, and at a better rate probably than he was able to do otherwise. And when we're talking to him, he's like, well, I'm gonna have money in a CD anyway, and I'm gonna have money in the market anyway, why not, give you guys a try? And, oh, by the way, if you do well with it and make money, I'll bring you more. And that's something that you guys might be thinking of when you're sharpening your pencil, as I think the gentleman yesterday said, when you're trying to put together a deal. If there are investable assets or CDs, why not bring them here and use them as part of the secondary collateral? But that was something I wanted to mention today. So I'm going to open it up to questions right now. Does anybody have anything for me, or for Mr. Wessel? I'll put him on the line since he said he was going to throw some rotten fruit at me if I said the wrong things this morning.
How many people outside the bank footprint do you guys serve?
I know that it's interesting because we work with a lot of multi-generational families, and so we'll have the parents or grandparents in South Bend, but then the children and grandchildren are all over the country. And one of the things when we started working with Specialty Finance Group, when Alan and Mr. Wessel put it together and said, yes, we're going to work with Specialty Finance Group, where they don't have the ties to South Bend, but they have the ties to the bank, and I don't want to get into the minimums, but we decided that there would be $1 million minimum on an investment account if it was going to be outside the imprint. And so I can tell you what my personal book, I would guess about 1/3 is outside and 2/3 are in South Bend. But I would say that as a department, it would probably be closer to 10 to 20.
Yeah, it's about 20, a little over 20%. It's a little hard to tell sometimes because when we look at addresses, some of them are maybe a Florida or Arizona address, and that's a seasonal address, it's not a full-time address. But typically, it's in that 20% range. I think there's another thing, Mark mentioned the 95% satisfaction rate we have. I think that's amazing just on the surface, but when you look a little deeper, it's even more significant because only about half our clients actually established a relationship with us on their own. Most of them, we were selected by their parents or their grandparents, and they still, even though we stand between them and getting total control of money sometimes, they still give us that kind of rating. So we're pretty proud of that.
And Mr. Wessel, the reason we're chuckling is Mr. Wessel and I, we serve on separate committees, but both of which involve clients asking for money, and we have to go to the governing document to determine whether or not they get it. And sometimes, Mr. Wessel says, we stand between the beneficiary and what's their money, and sometimes we say no. And so it can be interesting. Julianne, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Not at this time, thank you.
Mr. Qualley?
Yeah. With most anything having to do with banking, the first step is always by far the hardest. How do you get to the point where you get a customer that's ready to do business with you? It's very similar to what I said yesterday with deposits. If you talk to our people that are the most successful with generating deposits for the bank, they'll tell you that pushing them for that first step was the real challenge. Once you get past that, it becomes very easy. But, it's kind of like, you talk to a marathon runner, there's one, they hit a wall. And but here you hit the wall at the very beginning. And you have to break through that wall. And if you're going to be successful, you got to figure out how to do that. And Mark travels well, I can tell you that. He and I have gone out more than once and put together $1 million, multi-million-dollar investment accounts. with our clients, and I can't think of a time that they weren't not only pleased, but joyful with what we did for them, and for their errors.
And I guess that's the one thing I'd ask you to do when you head back home, is to think about, you know, just one client that you have that you think you could either benefit, could benefit from working with us, either now or down the road, and introduce and ask if they'd be interested in visiting on a joint phone call with us. And maybe you pick one of your clients that you're not sure would work well with us, but that you'd like, that you're good enough friends with, that you wouldn't mind doing a beta and saying, hey, we'll kick the tires on this wealth management team, we'll see how they do and watch, and see if they do do things in a trustworthy, fiduciary manner, in a way that would make my client relationship better as opposed to worse.
Because one thing I want to reiterate, it's not just about helping the customer and pleasing the customer and making money for the bank, but you really tie the customer to us overall. You really deepen that relationship. And it was amazing, the more products you can add.
Kraft just gave me the hook, but he can't give you the hook because he reports to you.
Yeah. Temporarily.
I remember.
But, you know, every time you have a product, you deepen that relationship dramatically. When you get 3, 4, 5 products, they don't ever go away. You've got them, even if they sell the business, they're going to continue to do business with us. Just like I said yesterday with deposits, you can talk to the majority of our customers scattered throughout the country, no matter what time zone they're in. Once we get them started, they are happy. But they went kicking and screaming to get across the starting line. That's the real challenge. You gotta be a real salesman to get them across that starting line. Very difficult to do.
What we do is elephants, it's not the rabbits. And so it takes time, but you already have a relationship with them, so that speeds up the process. Thank you very much for your attention. Just one. And Mr. Wessel is the head of our area, as you know, and Julianne Lusk is the head of our marketing area. And we're handing out probably our most famous and our best marketing piece that we do every year, which is our annual report. And I assure you that if you read that, you will find, you'll learn something that you didn't know. In fact, Mr. Wessel asked if the Wright brothers, in one of our meetings, if the Wright brothers were the first to fly. And if we thought that, and I said, yes, I thought that until 2 days ago when I read our annual report. And all, open to the last page, you'll see our team.
Second to last.
Second to last page. And it absolutely screams how deep our talent, our team is. So if you're like Richard Curran and you're not a big fan of Mark Andrews and you don't think he's got what it takes, we've got others on the team that are equally capable and equally able to take care of your clients. And Mr. Wessel would be happy to grow. Okay, well, we're going old school. We could get through old school. That's fine. One of the things, when you guys think of trust, just think, close your eyes, think of trust. What 1 or 2 words come to mind when you think of trust? And if you want to, you can write it down. Rick?
Mark Andrews, that's what comes to mind. Someone mentions trust. Mark Andrews.
Okay.
care and comfort.
Just makes me think of money. That's the reason I trust honesty.
Honesty, that's, Mr. Wessel?
Integrity would.
Integrity,
right on the
honesty.
line, honesty, right, absolutely.
There is no wrong answer. There are different, I mean, when I went to Webster, it was, you had the integrity, you had the financial, legal relationship, the finances. You know, there are different ways, but what we think of when we think of trust is our trust department and how we might be able to help you deepen your relationships. And that's what one of the slides up here, in fact, it looks like we might be getting there.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, oh, we definitely have the right team on it.
Yeah.
Swap sides of the table here.
You're doing infinitely better than I would be doing on that, because my area of expertise is partnering with your clients and helping them manage their wealth and deal with the wealth management issues that come across them. Let's see, personal trust.
Just want the screen up here so you can work off of it, maybe?
No,
You
well,
good?
yeah, I'll just.
He's
I'll
going
just-
manual, he's going
I'm
manual.
going, yeah. Richard, would you get up, we'll do some role
Yeah.
play? I have some pain points that we can help with. Some of you may recognize Julianne from yesterday's seminar. She'll be giving this speech later and doing a better job of it, I'm sure. But she was the star of yesterday's deal. But one of the things that we do, it's kind of funny because he was talking about pain, and one of the things that in my group that we were talking about is we don't create pain, we try to uncover pain. And then I realized afterwards, I was like, wait a second. When I was at a prior employer, we didn't, but we had what we called the scare page. And anybody that did estate planning had their version of the scare page. They might be accountants, they might be attorneys, they might be trust folks. But it was, if they had $10 million, here's what the estate tax would be, and that was the scare page. Of course, now we have that same scare page of $10 million, and there's zero federal estate tax if they're married. So it's not quite as frightening. And so, basically, our goal today in visiting with you is to answer any questions you may have regarding how we can get in front of your client base and help you protect those relationships and deepen those relationships through partnering with us and having us manage some of their funds and help them. In fact, Al gave a ringing endorsement at the when we were talking to construction, which is why I talked him into coming down here. So Al, I'm going to shut up and let you tell them how wonderful we are.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, Mark and I have gone out and traveled a number of times together. The real challenge with bringing in a new client is the first step. Getting their attention, convincing them they should listen to us, and take them kind of across the threshold. Once you do, as I talked yesterday about deposits, once you get started with a customer, they virtually always love us. You know, we can manage deposits 2,000 miles away with greater client satisfaction than some local banks a block away. And you gotta break the mindset. And it takes real salesmen to do that. A lot of our people just aren't getting the job done, but we're moving forward. And same thing with trust. Mark and I went to Houston many years ago, and for a specific purpose, and brought back a very substantial account. You know, we have several more lined up, and I don't think we've ever failed to be successful once we get in front of the customer. But the first step is important. As Mark said in the last session, you know, what you heard yesterday, you know, there's elephants, there's deer, there's rabbits. You know, this is elephants. You know, it's not rabbits, and it's not deer. You're not going to, with the snap of a finger, be successful. This is something that has a longer sales cycle to it. But once you bring them through the door, they typically are customers multi-generational. It's not just for a year or two, but it's generation. You know, Chris Murphy likes to talk about this. A lot of our clients are multi-generational. And we sometimes have 3, 4 generations at the same time. And it just becomes natural that they just continue on with us, with each succeeding generation. But that first step is what's so critical. How do you take the first step? And that's the real challenge. And again, it takes a lot of skill to do that. And it takes push, it's not easy. And, but if you accomplish it, it becomes a very meaningful relationship for the bank. And what it does for you as a sales officer, it deepens the relationship to where you have much less likelihood of ever losing that customer to the competition. You know, it's not the number of dollars that determines the stickiness of a customer. It's the number of products. Whether it's $500,000 or 20 million, makes no difference to the stickiness. But every time you add a product, the stickiness factor goes way up, way up. It's just incredible. And, you know, I can't remember losing one.
Well, you just hush, because you're gonna jinx us.
Yeah.
Not
That's
that
my
we're
point.
superstitious.
It creates a very sticky relationship, and that's our goal.
These are some of the vendor things we do. We try to do them in a manner that allows us to become the advisor. This is the important, preparation wins cases. My old boss, who's now a judge, when I was prosecutor, he always said, preparation wins cases. You might be, you know, the greatest trial attorney ever, and doing the work, homework beforehand is how you win. And that's one of the things here is, we don't want to be getting to see Frosty in March. We want to see Frosty in January or February, because when we do, we're able to do more to help Frosty so that in April he's not puddled.
Well, Mark, to that point, what's your suggestion with travel difficulty and the timing, when you want to meet somebody and when you have the ability and time to prospect?
What we would like to do, and actually, my one item that I was going to ask, but at the end, you all to do at the end, but I'll go ahead and fast forward since in light of the question, is think of one client that you have, that you think you might have, that might benefit from working with us, and that you think we should work with. And schedule a joint phone call that we'll make, that we then can visit with them, and if it goes well, then we can schedule, if we're invited, not schedule, but if we are invited, using yesterday's terminology, to meet with them, then we could do a joint face-to-face meeting with them. And so, that's, I mean, Mr. Wessel, do you, the head of our area is here, and I know that we don't like to talk about minimum, but there is a, we like to have it be $1 million if it's on a coast, if it's a long ways away. We don't want to be turning anybody down, but we don't want to be going to Hawaii for $50,000.
Well, we actually do want to do that.
I do want to go to but our shareholders
qualifies the opportunity.
But the joint phone call and then the joint face-to-face, if it sounds like they're, if it's something like
But the other challenge with that is that we experience it in the auto rental with acquisitions, and that person may go from liquidity of 250
Correct.
to 15 million.
Right.
But if you want to talk to them at 250, you're not going to get them at 15 million.
Right.
So
That's what we
the
do need.
fine line of.
So we want to talk to them at that point, and perhaps we get the 250 in as CD money with him. But the top part of this is the thing that Mr. Wessel and myself and the rest of the department are probably the proudest of, and that is that over 95% of our clients would put their reputations on the line for recommending us to their family and friends.
Hey, Mark, before you move on,
Yes.
talking about the $1 million, I think it was 10 years ago, maybe longer, when KeyBank made the decision that if you didn't have that minimum of $1 million, you didn't get to talk to a human being, you
Right.
talk to a machine.
Right, in fact, that's even locally,
Yeah.
they have those, and it depends on the organization. JP Morgan Chase here in this area has a $5 million limit. If you don't have $5 million in investable assets and you live across town, they won't talk to you. So it's an amazing change over the years in how people have approached it. We still believe in the client, and I think to the point that was made about the 250 versus 15 million, we have to look at it from a standpoint, not necessarily what they have today, but what's their potential. If you know you've got a change of ownership coming up and there's opportunities for us, and we're happy to participate in that without respect to what they may currently have.
Because this room probably knows better than any, given the sizable buyouts this past 12 months. What was it, 4 of the largest 10 clients? So,
I think it's important too for you to understand some of the numbers that Mark has up here on this slide. It would surprise most people probably in this room to know that we manage more money than the bank has on deposits. It's quite amazing to think of that. Also, we're in the top 50 in the country among banks in terms of fiduciary or trust revenues. Again, who would think a little community bank in South Bend, Indiana would have that kind of business, but we do. It's amazing. On the point of the 95% that would recommend us, if you think about it, almost half of our clients really didn't select us. Their parents did or their grandparents did, and we stand between them and having total control of the money, and they still say they would recommend us to others. That's a pretty amazing fact when you look at it. That's how greedy and some people are. But we have a tremendous staff, as you can see in the book. There are people dedicated to this, with people who have got a tremendous amount of experience. I think we're at about 1,700 years of experience in our staff. I've got 46 years experience doing this, and I've been with First Source for 20 years, and I'm actually a newcomer in our group because we have so many people that have been there 30 and 35 years. So it's a tremendously talented group of people, and I think we take really good care of your clients.
and that comes to your proposition where we help you retain and protect your relationships by bringing value to the relationships. In fact, I'm going to refer to Al. Al put together a deal with a client where they were going to be flying the planes to a location where we would not want to go get them if the loans went bad. And so in order to improve our comfort level in making that loan, Amy got a sizable CD and we got a sizable investment account as part of the collateral, which allowed them to get probably a better rate than they would have gotten otherwise, and maybe even gotten more, the loan to value.
Probably wouldn't have done the deal.
Probably would not have done the
Yeah.
deal. And so if you've got folks that the loan to value looks a little shaky, or they're asking you to sharpen your pencil on the rate or something, that might be a way to get, is to, instead of having it be a zero-sum game, figure out a way to expand the pie and say, look, you bring $500,000 to the CD and $1 million investment account, you're gonna want to be in the market or have a CD anyway. Why not have it with us, and we'll collateralize it and we can help you out there and expand the pie.
And there's incentives for them as well.
Right, the compensation, you do get the track award when you refer something to us that closes. If we get $1 million account, you'll get approximately $1,000 as a track award. Now, it's not gonna send kids to school, but it's kind of neat, as my boss put it, Allie, she said, when you get paid to do what's right for your client, that's a good thing.
It won't send them to college, but it'll buy one textbook.
It's crazy. I remember when textbooks, were $50, and I thought that was awful, and it was, but it's even worse now. And so, if you would think of the one client, I know Rick's already jumped the gun on this. He's got a client that he's that's had a liquidation event that we're going to get in front of. But if you just think of the one, and then we'll make a joint phone call and go from there, and be thinking of ways that we can partner with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to get your foot in the door. You know, one of them is through this thing where there's potential need coming up. And starting to discuss this 5-10 years out is not too far. And bringing it up with every customer is really of significant value. But the other thing, Chris Kraft and I have been talking about for quite some time now, the concept of some quid pro quo. The customer wants something from you, he wants this, concession here, concession there. Yeah, okay, well, what's the quid pro quo? Any idiot can lower the rate, any idiot can give this up or give that up, but it takes a real salesperson to get something or giving up something and making it a win-win. And, that's a real challenge. And it's amazing how often customers just looking for the whole thing, okay, I can give you this if I have it and it's somewhere else. Doesn't cost me anything to move it to you. If I can get something better someplace else, and I'm not saying we should give up loan pricing to get other products. That's a loser's game as well. But if it's something you're gonna have to do anyway, there's the perfect opportunity to say, okay, we have opportunities where we can mutually benefit.
Thank you very much for your attention, and see you later.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Door's locked. I was locking it on these guys. You're not getting out until I get a deal.
Taking out your wallets.
Oh. Well, since Mr. Holst won't introduce me, I'll introduce myself.
I think everybody knows you are.
Everybody in this room knows me, Mark Andrews, but most of you probably do not know Julianne Lusk. She's the head of our marketing in the trust area, and was the star performer in yesterday's presentation. I don't know if you recall, but some of us flew under the radar, she flew above. But we're here to represent the trust department. You all have my card, and if you go to the first, if you turn that card over, I'm going to ask you to do some homework, because yesterday we were asked to write something down probably 24 times. I'm going to ask you to write something down once. And what I'd like you to do is it can be in terms of professional or in terms of 6 feet under, but I'd like you to answer the question for yourself of how do you personally want to be remembered? What, 1, 2, 3 words, no more than 3 things that you'd like to be remembered by. And go ahead and write it down. We'll wait for you. I'll continue talking if you'd like, but I don't see anybody turning my card over. Do I need to go back and lock the door?
We don't have pens for us.
What?
Some of us don't have pens.
It's got my name on it, so I know I'll get it back. Mr. Holst?
Do we have to turn this in?
Yes, this is not only going to be handed in, but you will be graded on. No, there is no right or wrong.
I'm most proud of working with Mark.
What?
I'm most proud of working with Mark.
Flattery will get you everywhere. In fact, I brought
No, I'm
Mr.
really most proud of the big fees you pay.
We pay, or that we generate?
I know you pay. Oh, yes, oh, yeah.
Oh, the track award. Yeah.
The track award.
I'll tell yeah, Mr. Lindstedt knows a little bit about that. And Mr. Byers wants to learn all about that. And Eduardo, as soon as Kraft loosens and once we allow him to do it, he's going to go gangbusters on it, aren't you, Eduardo? You what? No, once we unshackle the ability for you to generate assets, I think you're gonna go crazy on that. But what are the ones that you wrote down, Eduardo?
I wrote, make a difference.
Make a difference. Make a difference. Have an impact. Make a difference in people's lives. Absolutely. Relationships. There is a gentleman that was the head of our HR department for many decades at First Source, and he shares the last name of a gentleman in this room, because it's his dad. And when I talked to Mr. Kraft, Dan, everybody in here know Dan? Some of the young guys may not, but all of us old timers do. He always talked about the importance of relationships. And so that implicit in this question is, how do you want to be remembered, is what kind of impact, or how did you make a difference on the different important relationships that different folks have. This is one of the things that when we work with your clients, or our clients, once we partner with you to work with them, this is one of the most important things we do, is try to figure out where these clients want to go. Because anybody can buy or sell a stock or a bond or a fund for them. But it takes a true advisor, using yesterday's terminology, to get at what's really important to your clients. And then we figure out how to help them. We actually do get into problem-solving mode. I'm a problem solver, and we are problem solvers in the department. But when we find out, when we get the roadmap of where they want to go, then we figure out how to help them get there. And whether it's a retirement planning, estate planning, like for me, when I thought of this question, I thought of it in terms of retirement. You know, I wanted to be thought of as trustworthy, as caring, and as capable. Those were the three things that that's how I answered it.
Struck out,
Hit the drum roll.
And the chairman said such nice things about you, Mr. Johnson, when you weren't here. And I just was sitting there going, is Chris, Doug must treat the chairman a little differently than he treats me. And I thought, no, that's not the Doug I know and love. He treats everybody the same. Equally rough. You guys are the experts at the liability management. We kind of specialize in the legacy planning and the asset management, and we help folks build their house and keep them dry in the winter, or warm in the winter and dry in the spring. These are the vendor, if you guys remember from yesterday, the vendor things. These are the vendor things we do. But again, if we're doing these at the very top of our game, we're actually solving for what really matters to these clients. This is one of my favorite slides, because unfortunately, a lot of times when we get brought in, it's too late. When in talking with the auto rental group, they had, Chris is nodding his head, 4 of their 10 largest clients had a liquidation event last year. And so when we're coming in at that point, every wealth management from coast to coast is talking to these folks, and it's too late to get, because then we're stuck in the same game as what we talked about yesterday, where it's a shell game as opposed to actually being their advisor. And so the time to bring us in is not in March. The time to bring us in is December, January, February, where we can help them plan and figure out a way for Frosty to get transferred into a freezer unit or Alaska or something where he won't melt come April. This is a fun slide that talks about some of the fun things we do. Trust, when people think of trust, they think it's stodgy, old, but no, we help people, we get smiley faces, we help people with their money, preserve and grow. But this is the slide that those of us in trust are the proudest of, particularly the top one there, the exceptional client service. It's really important for you folks to know that more than 95% of our clients are willing to put their reputations on the line and recommend us to their client, to their family and their friends. And so it's one thing to say, yes, I'm going to continue doing business with you, which is important, don't get me wrong. In fact, when we do our survey, the 2 most important questions, I think, or what I call the 2 money questions, are you going to continue doing business with us? That's big when you're in the senior generation, that's a big question. But this one here is the second big question, which is, would you put it on the line and say, yes, I trust you guys enough to take care of my family and my friends that I'm going to refer them to. And then on something that you may not be aware of, is that we're, like you guys are one of the largest aircraft, lenders in the country. We're one of the largest bank trust departments in terms of revenue in the country. We're in the top 50, which many people aren't aware of. And that if you look on the annual report, you'll see over 100 knowledgeable. I mean, you just look at that page, the last page or the second to last page when you open it up. It just screams deep team. And I jokingly tease, but I think I'll be serious with Mr. Johnson, that if you don't have to work with me, okay? In fact, I would prefer that you didn't. So I'm going to take my card back. But there is a deep team, and if you've got a personal issue with your current wealth management provider, we've got many others. If you look at that picture, you'll see attorneys, you'll see CPAs, you'll see CFAs, which is the highest designation in investments. In fact, there's a CFA in the room.
Looking for punishment, that's all I can say.
But we're a very deep team, and we've been doing this a long time. In fact, Mr. Wessel mentioned this morning that we actually manage over $4 billion, which is more than the bank has in deposits, which is interesting. And then here's your value proposition. You guys probably want to retain your clients, right? You want to protect those relationships. One of the ways you protect and retain clients is by deepening the existing relationships. I haven't seen the study in a long, long time, but back when I was a trust officer in Nebraska, I remember our community bank, they said that if you had 5 different relationships, if you had 5 different accounts or 5 different touches with a client, they wouldn't leave. If you had one and it was just a CD, they're rate shoppers and they'd go to the next one. But if you had a CD, you had a checking account, you had an investment account, you had a safety deposit box, you had a kids club, whatever. If you had, 5 was kind of the magic number. And so by bringing in trust, you're helping the client with a need that they have, and you're protecting your relationship if you bring in, if we're able to add value to the relationship. And I guess that's the real crux of the matter. And that's the one thing I'm going to ask you all to do at the end of this presentation, is to think of one client that you have that you think could benefit from our wealth management team, whether it's investments, whether it's planning. Combination of the two is ideal, but if you've got somebody that you think will either is going to be retiring, has some business succession issues, might have some estate issues, bring us. I'd like to do a joint phone call with you with them, and if we are invited, which is the magic word that we learned yesterday afternoon, if we're invited to meet with them, then we could do a face-to-face joint call. And we're joking about in Hawaii, but I think some of you may have a client or two in Hawaii. You used to have one.
I have some Rick's guys.
Yeah, so Rick, I'll be shining your shoes later. But Wichita is nice this time of year too.
Yeah.
I'm from Omaha, so I can say that. That's one of the things. Al, you were singing our praises earlier, so I'm going to shut up and let you talk.
Well, I think one of the important things when we talk about the stickiness of the client, the relationship, it's not this, if you have a lending relationship, it doesn't matter the size of the relationship. Whether it's, 200,000 or 20 million, makes no difference in their stickiness, none whatsoever. But every time you add a new product, you increase the stickiness factor geometrically, and it's incredible. And so when you get to 5 products, the likelihood of that customer ever leaving you is so remote. You've got it, as long as you take good care of them. But when you're a one-trick pony, one product, you can have all their loans, but you're still a one-trick pony if you have nothing else. And then you're subject to loss to competition.
One of the other things I would just point out too, and I alluded to this in our opening dinner. And that is, we've seen this in the auto group where we've had people have these sales and liquidity events. And, you know, the idea of getting in front of those folks earlier would have put us in a better position. Now, we got Mark in front of a lot of those people. There's some things that are cultivating, at least with one of those opportunities. But the idea of getting them there so they can help in that situation and be on the inside track becomes very important in extending the relationship. Because we've got all these years of helping them build their wealth, achieve security, realize their dreams, and we'd like to see that. And that's, we get gratification in that as a lending group. I mean, that's a success story. But to extend that and then be able to have that relationship go further with some of the other planning and investment management becomes really important. So to the extent that even if it's well ahead of the actual event, make those introductions where you see it might make some sense down the road. I think that can go a long way for them as well as for us. And by the way, I've already heard some people were requesting you to autograph.
I'd be happy to. In fact, there is something in here that this group in particular, Mr. Wessel asked me to ask this group, how many folks in this room thought that the Wright brothers flying at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina was the first flight? I did until I read this.
I thought you were talking Florida.
No. There's an article in here about a gentleman that flew before the Wright brothers up in St. Joe, Michigan, on Silver Beach. Not quite here in River City, but just down
in the area.
But yeah, within an hour's drive. So, now, I want to reemphasize one client. I'm not asking for 10, I'm not asking for 20. One client that you think could benefit from being introduced to us, and we'll do a joint phone call and see where it leads. Any further questions? Unlock the door. And Rick, you and I will be talking.
Do you give gift cards?
Actually, we give cold hard cash if we close. And you're doing the right thing for your client anyway.
This is our year.
This is our year. Just like the Cubs.
I owe them one.
You do, yeah. And you want to keep up with the Joneses. Or the Lindstedts, as the case may be. And everybody in this room is familiar with the deal that Al and Jeff put together where they used CDs and investment account is.
No, I doubt if anybody else knows about it.
Share with the group what,
Go ahead.
Jeff, you wanna? The Simpson, Steve Simpson?
Sorry,
The Steve's deal?
You know all about it.
Okay.
Nobody wants to know.
Okay, we'll tell.
Top secret.
Okay, basically what happened was Jeff and Al came up with a great idea. They had a client that was gonna take aircraft and take it to a part of the world that we really didn't wanna go get, did we? Yeah, you know, Africa, did you wanna go? No. Anyway, we didn't think so, and Jeff didn't think so, and Al didn't think so. So in order to improve the loan to values and in order to improve our comfort level and in fact to do the deal, my guess is credit, you mentioned credit probably wouldn't have approved it without.
Oh, credit's sitting right here.
Credit probably, you know, that we ended up, but when the client who had significant wealth put a significantly sized CD with Amy in the cash management and put a significant investment account with us, that they then attached, all of a sudden, the comfort level was there because we had assets that we could liquidate here to cover any losses that we might have, as opposed to sending our good friend Mr. Rosenboom over to Africa to try to find the planes. So the planes are obviously still the primary collateral. The rate is still based on that, but then we've got these secondary and tertiary, and given the way the deal's set up, we may do more deals similar to this. Is that accurate?
Oh, we hope to do a lot more.
And in fact, that client told me that if we make money, which we have been on the investment side, we'll get more. And so it looks like it's going to be a win for the client, obviously, because got the loan, win for us, and, you know, everybody's winning, and we like that.
A win-win relationship.
Mutually beneficial relationships generally tend to be deep and long-lasting, and that's what we're all about, is mutually beneficial relationships. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you.
Go, yeah, see how I started?
Yeah.
So
So polite.